Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Poland.
Oops, I didn't mean to let it play there. Hey guys, meet the Polish A-10 killer, Skorpion fighter jet. A-10 Warthog? It's like the only, don't be confused. I have very little knowledge of aircraft, any aircraft, military aircraft. But the A-10 Warthog is like the only one. B-29? Anyways, but, I mean, you can't miss the giant Gatling gun at the front. Let's go. My name's Connor, if you're new. Ow. Original link to the video, top of the description, from Found and Explained. It's a cool name. Preemptive like the Polish A10 killer Skorpion. Let's go.
Brought to you
if you're not ready to learn, you're in the wrong class.
This
or teach
is the
me.
A10 on steroids. With 2 Gatling cannons, 4,000 kilos of bombs, and stealth characteristics, this close combat aircraft is possibly the most overkill 90s jet ever designed. But it wasn't American or Russian, but unexpectedly Polish. And why on earth did they see the A10 and go, we can do better? Meet the Skorpion.
I saw a funny quote that made me chuckle, that the A10 isn't a plane with a gun, but it's a gun that flies. I just butchered that, and I paraphrased that, but it was, they said it better than I did, and it was funny.
When you think of aerospace titans at the end of the Cold War, Poland would be pretty far down your list. But the former Polish Commonwealth state is full of surprises and chasing after its own fighter jet when regaining its independence from the USSR at the end of the Cold War was one of them.
Okay, war seems scary, but nothing is scarier to me than Polish words. I think that I'm like, oh, I'll do that. I'll try and pronounce it, and then I'll click like the Google microphone to say it. I couldn't be more wrong. So, of any language in the world that I feel like would be so difficult to learn for me, Polish is up there at the top. Because all the letters don't make the sound that I'm used to it making in English, and my brain wants to die.
Commonwealth state is full of surprises and chasing after its own fighter jet when regaining its independence from the USSR at the end of the Cold War was one of them. The project's origin started with research done by British Aerospace, or BAE, on jets that featured the ability to have short takeoffs and landings on any terrain.
A rear
dubbed
propeller.
the Small Agile Battlefield Aircraft, a fighter plane that would fill the role of close combat operations, much like the A-10.
I'm usually surrounded by people in the comments who know much more about planes than I do, but that's the first airplane that's driven by a propeller from the back end of the plane. Has anyone else seen that before?
Any terrain, dubbed the Small Agile Battlefield Aircraft, a fighter plane that would fill the role of close combat operations, much like the A-10 does today. The Polish, who are now looking to expand their now independent air force, thought, why not make the aircraft themselves? So they put together a contest and invited local firms to apply. Our hero of the story, PZL Warszawa Okerche, I probably really butchered that name.
Imagine the dollar signs, like cartoons, the eyes turn into dollar signs that some military companies must see when they like get offered a potential contract from a country that has deep pockets.
Initially came up with Warszawa
like cha-ching.
Okerche, I probably really
I'm not trying that.
butchered that
Nope.
name, initially came up with a pretty unique pusher turboprop design. It would have the ability to take off and land from 250-meter rough runways, fly as fast as 640 kilometers per hour, and drop up to 2,000 kilograms worth of...
I don't know kilometers per hour enough, guys. 640 kilometers per hour to miles per hour. 397. That seems kind of slow, actually, guys. Interesting. It is a prop plane.
Bomb 140 kilometers per hour and drop up to 2,000 kilograms worth of bombs. Oh, and it would also have a 25mm cannon too for direct strikes. Best of all, it would be cheap, modular, and easy to construct, using much of the tech from the previous PZL-130 and hence its codename the PZL-230. Two versions were proposed, an attack version and a trainer. Going up against them was another Polish aircraft called the PZL Cobra, with a pretty unique dorsal engine intake. This plane could carry twice as much weapons and fly twice as fast, but it was deemed too expensive. But that double capacity wasn't lost to the Air Force, who in turn gave the contract to the Skorpion, but doubled the requirements, faster, heavier, and far more deadly, essentially creating the Polish A10. The Skorpion was to be a game changer for the Polish military, just like a Squarespace website is for today's business, and that's right.
I'm usually so good at predicting the ads coming up, and that caught me totally off guard. Guys, we're going to play through the ads. You can fast forward if you want. It's up to you. But I'm going to play through their video. Original link to this video, top of the description. Make sure if this interests you and you learned it here, use the promo codes and links, please, guys.
They're today's video sponsor. But before you touch that dial, check out a sneak peek of our next episode. That's right, if you need a new website, then Squarespace is the best website builder. They have plenty of great templates, or you can have a go building your own design with their powerful code-free builder. They have built-in e-commerce tech to add products and start selling an online store, in-built email campaign marketing that's very easy to use.
Stay hydrated, guys.
Already optimized for mobile phones, so you don't have to make a second version. Plus, when you click that link, you're actually supporting the channel by helping fund the animations and videos that you love so much. So it's win-win. So you're thinking, Nick, this sounds like a fantastic deal. To get it, go to www.squarespace.com/found. I'll throw in 10% off your first site and domain. Be a supporter of the channel and click that link. Back to the show. Under the cracking whip of the Polish Ministry of Defense in 1991, the team of engineers got to work redesigning the Skorpion to meet these new extreme requirements. This new plane had to fly twice as fast, up to 1,000 kilometers an hour, have a combat range of 300 kilometers, and a service ceiling of up to 12,000 meters.
Just let me go back like 10 seconds.
Plane had to fly twice as fast, up to 1,000 kilometers an hour, have a combat range of 300 kilometers, and a service ceiling of up to 12,000 meters, which is 39,000 feet for my American viewers.
Thank you.
It couldn't sacrifice its short takeoff and landings ability, keeping that limited to...
I feel like I'm decently fine with meters because we'd always have the meter stick in science class. It's the only time Americans use... I got to admit, I was a little hesitant at first, but it's not even close. Voice crack. It's not even close. Your system of measurement is just better. But we would use it only in like science classes or sometimes in math word problems. So, but I know a meter is around the same size as a yard. And 100 yards is really easy for me to visualize because that's a football field. American.
Under 300 meters of runway. It would also be twice as heavy, carrying up to 4,000 kilos of NATO ordnance. So in order to do this,
like
the
an elephant.
engines were gone. The engineers at the time deemed that they wouldn't provide enough power to carry this new big chungus, and thus they replaced the prop engines with jet engines of Pratt & Whitney, specifically the PW.
How do people build this thing? Does anyone else get freaking amazed? I remember when I was younger, I would look at cars, like, and at some age, it just hit me. It's like, how did we make this thing? Like, so we took material from the ground and manipulated it and turned it into a thing we can drive? People are so freaking smart. And now scale that up by 1,000. What the hell is this? Who knew how to build this? How do I meet you? This is insane.
305 turbo.
Like, well, what does this do? What does this do? What does that do? What does this do? someone knows all of it.
Fan. The military.
I'm sorry, I'll stop.
Thus, they replaced the prop engines with jet engines of Pratt & Whitney, specifically the PW305 turbofan. The military also got obsessed with a new hotness, namely stealth aircraft. They asked, why not make this a stealth plane just like the Americans? And thus the Skorpion was given a black paint job, internal components, and engines mounted inside the wing, and a lower radar cross-section. Plus, whilst they were at it, they also threw in the latest early 19th computers, fly-by-wire controls, and even yaw control for the onboard cannon, meaning you didn't even have to aim with the nose. Oh, did I mention that not only did the Skorpion have a 20...
Question. That sounded cool at first, but wouldn't it just be easier to aim with the nose? I'm picturing this as someone who has no idea how to fly an airplane. And so I'd imagine that's just a lot of other things you have to worry about, and maybe just facing the thing would be easier. But what do I know? I don't know.
25mm cannon internally, but externally it could carry
Jesus
a
Christ.
30mm GAU-8 Avenger. Yes, the same as the A-10. With the mock-up made, this impressive aircraft had equally impressive stats. It could perform a 180 turn within 5 seconds and be flown at an angle of attack of up to 50 degrees. Even more impressive if you consider the firm building it had only...
So a 90-degree angle of attack would be like straight down shooting. 45-degree would be like equal between straight forward and straight down. So like this, something like that.
Experience 50 degrees. Even more impressive if you consider the firm building it had only experience with farming equipment and light turboprops. But that didn't stop the world taking notice, not only winning contracts on the home front, but those outside the country such as Britain, Spain and Israel were interested in purchasing a few Skorpions of their own. So what the heck happened? Why don't we have fleets of this monster plane flying everywhere, especially right now in the conflict in Ukraine?
Cost?
Now, there were some flaws with the design.
Problems with the radar
First, it was
detection?
discovered later that the engines chosen for the aircraft, the PW305 turbofans, wouldn't have been powerful enough either. So in turn, they were swapped out for Honeywell LF507s, no longer fitting in the fuselage and giving it a V-shaped tail. Also, this whole obsession with stealth was rather silly, and I absolutely bet that some people have already written a comment about the stealth principles before I got to this part.
Is it because stealth fighters, like if if you're any nation, having all stealth fighters as your whole thing would be a bad idea, and you'd probably rather have all non-stealth ones, because isn't the whole concept of being a stealth fighter the fact that you can detect your enemy aircraft or target before they can detect you? And so in any non-dogfight scenario, a stealth aircraft would be good. But if you get into a dogfight, you are at a limitation because most of your equipment is around stealth. And so if you're going to get stealth, you better be a rich enough military to also have a lot of non-stealth aircraft. Am I close, guys?
Not only would it have a terrible radar cross-section when it was fully armed, its mission profile wouldn't even need stealth features. If this plane was flying at a low altitude, below 10,000 feet at a slow speed, it was hardly a situation that stealth would make a difference. The cost of the program was also beyond optimistic. The manufacturer was claiming at the time that it would have cost around 11,500 billion zlotys, which is 65 million US, to develop this plane, which is bonkers as we know today planes cost billions to design. There was also the issue of where to build it. As we mentioned at the intro of this video, Poland wasn't that well known of a military aircraft technology superpower, unlike the US, and this aircraft was going to be made up of less than 70% locally sourced components. And because of its stealth profile, 50% of the plane would also need to be lightweight carbon fiber, something Poland at the time wasn't producing in bulk. This last point was the speck of dust in the machine of progress that caused the friction and eventual freezing of the program. Politicians were divided on whether or not it was wise to rely so heavily on foreign firms like US and Britain to provide these parts instead of just buying a fully foreign-made aircraft. And also those other firms that lost the contract to the Skorpion, they thought it would be sneakier to try and get the program cancelled rather than sign up to the Skorpion parts program.
Okay.
With the election of a left-leaning government in 1994, the military was now under pressure to cancel the program. Speaking at the time, Brigadier General Henrik Mika, director of the Ministry of Defense Military Procurement Program, stated that no further work would be done on the program and that it made little sense to start on a new clean sheet when an existing design could be developed to meet the Polish Air Force requirements. For some, it was simply cheaper to buy American than make it themselves. Thus, the funding was pulled, and despite the best efforts by PZL to keep it going, by December they shut down the design and moved on.
Guys, question. So were the people who advocated for still building it, despite it being more economic, financially feasible, just buying a different aircraft, like from the US or whoever, were they doing that because, like, were they looking at the long term, the long game of, you know, it's never going to be economically great to start your production of aircraft, but you got to start somewhere in order to become a great producer of aircraft. And so maybe they were weighing that option?
Leaving us in a Skorpion-less world. Now, I'd like to have a little chat on what could have been. If this aircraft had been built, while it would have been overkill for its role, it would have opened up a whole new Polish aerospace market. Many countries around the world would have loved a third-party nation to buy reliable aircraft from, one that was not so much aligned with the US or Russia. Asia and Africa would have been easy markets to sell to, and we would have seen it get extensive use in the Middle East. In my personal opinion, I think that this aircraft like these are refreshing and really expand what we could have had in the world of aviation. And the fact that it wasn't built really does want me to put an F in chat. But maybe it's only because this bad boy had 2 Gatling cannons. Brrr. Thanks so much for watching me, and I hope you...
Where's the second one? All right. I thought even 1 Gatling cannon was bad for the structural integrity lifespan of a plane, and would 2 not be twice as bad? Interesting video for sure. Love you guys. Hope you're all doing well. Would appreciate any comments down below, and hopefully I'll see you guys next video. We'll keep learning. Bye, guys.